I'm going to tape it down to my plexiglass, which I just like to be able to move around and tilt. I do have this cute little palette that I like to mix on. I have lots of spaces to mix. I think it's important to have lots of spaces to mix different colors and make sure that your paint is going on a surface instead of just going onto your paper. I do often take my paint straight to my paper, but I also think it's really important to have a space to mix your paints, to dilute them, to change the hues, which just means, adding more water or less water. The vibrancy, you can, add a little bit of different colors to tone them down or make them brighter, et cetera, et cetera. All the fun stuff that comes with color theory and color mixing. I'm not a purist when it comes to color theory. I am an intuitive color mixer, which just means that I don't know if it sort of comes just with practice or with just kind of an instinct, because I've been doing it for a long time and I love to play with color. I do know some basics. I'm not going to sit here and try to teach those to you, though, because I think there are so many artists that have done such a good job with that I would be A, repeating the wheel, and B, I might mince it, quite honestly. I don't really want to do that for you, because I think that you can go find that information somewhere and have it been done really well for you, right? And a lot of it is literally just practicing. You have to practice mixing colors, playing with colors, finding out what works best for you, what works best for your art, and how you like to do art, right? You're not going to just, I'm going to wet my paper, just by watching, a bunch of people mix colors. I don't think that does enough for you. I think you really, really do have to try it on your own and do things and see what works for you, right? And what color combinations. People are always afraid of making muddy colors, and I think that you shouldn't be. I think part of learning is maybe making those, hi Penny, hello. I think part of making, muddy messes is part of learning. And I think that helps us in the long run. And somebody just said recently, I'm afraid to make mud. And I don't think you should be. I think that you should embrace that, and go past that and move past that and challenge yourself and practice getting past that, right? Because it can be kind of overwhelming to think, oh yeah, I'm going to ruin this, but it's kind of what we have to do. We have to push through that phase where, okay, things are great, but what if I do this? What if I make too much? Oh, well, if you make too much mud, right? Flip it over and use the other side. There's all sorts of different ways we can keep going with our art. And, it's just paper. Paint small, like I do, 4x6 or smaller, and then you have lots of chances to redo stuff, right? And you don't have to worry about ruining paper, because you'll have many more chances to do that. So what I did, I wet my paper. I just added some yellowish color and then an orangish burnt sienna-ish color. Now I'm just going to maybe add a brighter orange down here. I'm just playing like I always do. Nothing in my head. I did see a reel right before I started that was really beautiful autumn and fall colors. I thought, maybe we'll play with those colors. But I also saw another reel that was dark blue and a bunch of ochre colors. So that really called to me as well. So who knows what I'll end up doing. But anyway, dropping in some very orange. I don't know what, I think this is purple or purple. Permanent. Oh, like a permanent yellow orange. I think it's Art Philosophy's color. I really do like some of their colors. They only make 17 tubes. So I think it's actually a really great way to, like Daniel Smith makes over 260, right? And so when I first started, I really wanted Daniel Smith's and all of them, because you get really caught up and you're like, I want them all, right? I need them all to be a good artist. First off, you don't. Second off, it's really expensive to get all those tubes. I wouldn't recommend that unless you can super afford it. I mean, I would love to have all those colors, but I don't. I actually don't have very many of Daniel Smith's colors. I have a few handfuls, and I love them. I wish I had more, but again, they are really expensive. And I do like handmade. So I like to support the handmade makers. And so my story was, that Art Philosophy makes a set of 17 tubes that I think are really great, like really, really great. And if you wanted commercial paints and you were kind of on the fence about, what brand to buy, I think they're a good starting point. And I think they make a really good sort of rounded out palette of 17 colors. Long-winded, sorry. All that to say, I think they make some great colors. All right, just dropping in some greens and playing around. Penny, are you painting today? You're the only one that said hi so far, so you're the only one that I officially know is here. I did not announce it to my subscriber group, so my apologies. It was impromptu again. I've been kind of doing these impromptu lives to kind of help take a little bit of pressure off. Hello, Layla. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. And I'm going to try to ease back into lives. If you don't know, I do a lot of lives on, or I was doing a lot of lives on Instagram. Like a lot. Like, you know, 3 to 4 to 5 a week. That's a lot of lives. If you don't know, that's a lot of lives, right? Because I don't get paid for them. And so it's just a lot of time and a lot of pressure, and not even pressure so much, just a lot of, right? Just a lot in general. I'm painting landscapes with a harvest moon. I thought I would mention that. Yes. Yay. I want to see. Will you send it to me when you're done? If you want to, if you don't have to. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Layla. I appreciate that. I love painting, and I love practicing, and I love playing around with color. So it's a super win for me. I do a lot of other crafty things, and they all involve, you know, basically all crafts involve color, don't they? So this just really fit kind of my thing. I always had dreamed about being able to draw, and I can't draw. And I always dreamed about painting, and you know, the classes I took, they were very strict and very formalish, and you had to draw certain ways, and you had to learn, you know, how to, you know, draw and shade and values and all those things. And I think those are very valuable things. I'm not discounting that at all. That wasn't what inspired me. Getting color on a paper and just going inspired me, right? These magical and mysterious and abstracty and loose things that I do inspire me. And yes, I want to learn all the other stuff down the road. Oh, you do go to art school? I did too. I just didn't go for art. I went for something else. But I even my drawing class, I took a few drawing classes in art school, and my heart wasn't in it to push myself, and I should have practiced more, and I wished I did, and I didn't. But I did love art history and color theory and all those other classes I did end up taking some of those kind of classes too. And they were a lot of fun. I just wish I had any kind of natural talent for it, and I didn't. I just didn't at all. And so I was always very intimidated by all those that did have that talent. And of course, you know, the class is filled with those. It was rare to have people like me who couldn't draw. And so it was very discouraging. Now that I'm older, I would probably do much better at it. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't. I actually might get a little discouraged as well, but it's just hard. Oh, how cool. What play are you in? That is really cool. Hello, hi, hello, welcome. My kids want to be in plays so badly. I was in stuff like choir, but I was pretty afraid of stage. I did do tap and ballet when I was younger, before I knew to be scared, I guess. I don't know what all of a sudden got me really scared, but in high school, I couldn't even do speeches. I would freeze up and just, yeah, it was a disaster. Oh, cute! Finding Nemo. You know, it's funny. I don't think I've ever actually seen that in its fullity. That would be really interesting to see how one does Finding Nemo. Like, how does that work? Since it's underwater and there's not really. Are there humans in Finding Nemo? I don't think so, right? I don't think so. I could be wrong. Maybe it's like Little Mermaid, where there's humans in Little Mermaid, right? Don't laugh. I'm really bad with the newer stuff. Now ask me about older stuff and I'm much better. Mary Poppins and Sound of Music. Am I dating myself? Probably yes. That's okay. Oh wait, for the sky, I did wet my paper before I started, and I'm just using some water. Yeah, choir was one that I felt I could kind of be lumped in on. And plus, they had really great field trips. I don't know if yours did too, but they had such great field trips back in my day. I went to Disneyland, and I think we went to like Great America or something. Just some really good field trips. So I was always excited to do those. I joined the science club for Disneyland too. I think I went to Disneyland 3 times in 1 year because of the clubs and like what in my middle school, they had a lot of fun offerings, and I continued choir in high school for like a year or two, and then I was like, nope, this isn't for me. I have zero talent with singing either, and Yeah, I didn't fit in with any crowd. It would be funny if you were there at the, but yeah, I wish I was better at that kind of stuff. And I wish I was better at, public stuff. I'm okay talking here because, I'm more in my comfort zone. I worked in restaurants a lot going through my 20s and my teens and stuff. And so I feel like that, I gained confidence in stuff that I worked in that I was confident with. But, and I'm learning more confidence in this art field, but it's hard because there are some amazing artists out there that just have all the natural talent. And sometimes that can be hard to, call yourself an artist or myself an artist when I see all these other people with these just natural abilities and just like can do it without even thinking. And here I am really struggling. So yeah, it's okay. We have been to an actual theater to do choir in our city. Oh, how cool. Okay. I remember we've sang out in front of our school once. Just as I don't even know what it was. Somebody must have been there. I don't know why else we would stand out there and sing. But I don't remember. I can't remember if we went anywhere with it. Maybe we did. I don't know. It was a long time ago. It's hard to remember back then. Oh, okay. Let's see. So I've got my sky sort of penciled in. I guess you could call that penciled in. Got my sky kind of in. I'm going to grab a liner, rigger brush, a script liner, and I'm going to grab some greens maybe. Just something I have in my palette over here that's already kind of sitting there. And then I drop it right in back in here as more tree suggestions. And my paper might be starting to dry, so I want to be careful about adding too much water, right? This is a stage where if you're adding too much water, so you can check your paper. I can see spots where it's not all the way dry, and I can see spots where it is dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely dry it with my heat tool so that I'm not making blooms, which you can see I'm starting to right here. I don't know if you can see how that water is having that hard line right there. That's what I don't want that. I mean, it works in some instances, but this is something that, most people want to try to avoid in general. So this is kind of my base layer. This is kind of like if we were to make an outline for a coloring book, right? This is kind of where I want it to go. I like the light in the middle. I like the darker, a little bit darker on the edges. The sky is okay. I could loosen it up a little bit. I only used one color for the sky, but it's a granulating color, which means it has a few different pigments within the one color. So when they handmade paint, they can add a bunch of different pigments, right? So there might be 2 or 3 different colors in this particular pigment. So that's why you'll see, come on, why are you not focusing? Why are you not focusing? You can see bits of pink in there. There we go. I don't know why it takes so long. You'd think after how much money we spend on these darn phones, they wouldn't take so long to react, right? All right, I'm gonna mute so you don't have to listen to this heat tool go, and I'll be right back. Okay, so remember how I said that sharp line, not sharp line, but the hard line, this hard line right here, and you can kind of see where I try to put in those brush marks kind of last minute. So what I can do to fix that and get rid of that, what I want to do is spray my paper again with water, and I can grab a flat brush. Any flat brush will do. Any brush really, it doesn't even have to be a flat brush, but I do like to use a 1/2-inch flat brush. This is a Christy Rice brush, and again, any brush will work. You can buy a cheapie and those work just fine too. So what I'm gonna do is gently not spread the water, but brush lightly. So see, now that hard line starts to disappear a little bit, and you can just kind of, you want to be careful though, right? Because at this point things will move, right? We're re-wetting a water-based paint, and so things can and will move around. So I'm going to use this to my advantage. See, I'm also getting yellow in my sky, which I don't necessarily want, so I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to tilt my board. I can use a roll of tape to put underneath my board so that anything is dripping is going down. I can use this to soften these clouds and pick up stuff. So I'm going to soften these clouds I made in the sky because I didn't really like what they were doing. Okay, so overall everything's softened out. We kind of got rid of that hard line we saw. It's still there a little bit, but what I can do, now that everything's re-wet, right, I can take away my tape because I don't think things are going to move too much now. I can take that brush back again that I already had. I can grab whatever color I want. I'm going to grab maybe an orangish yellowish color. And I'm going to maybe just add some contrast in throughout different areas of this by just literally adding plops of color, right? Nothing crazy. Anybody can do what I've done so far. So if you doubt it, just try it and you can, right? You don't need expensive paints. You don't need expensive brushes. The only thing I would suggest is spending the money on the paper. The 100% cotton paper will change your game and change your learning speed. If you're using inexpensive paper, your learning is going to slow down exponentially, like drastically. Okay, so that means cellulose paper, that means any of the Canson type, unless it says 100% cotton, and it has to say that all over the packaging. It can't just say it on the Amazon description. It has to say on the outside of the packaging, it has to say 100% cotton, and that's what you want to use. You don't want to use anything else besides that. Everything else will be subpar. You can use it, it's just you're just not going to get the best results, and it's not going to show what your colors can really do. It's going to kind of, it would be, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example. I used to eat Cheez-Its, right? And my mom would occasionally buy something, a cheap version. It was like that, and they never tasted the same to me. That's a poor comparison. Let me try to think of a better one. I don't know. It's just, it would be trying to cut bread with a butter knife or something, right? You're just not using the right tools. You just really need to have 100% cotton paper, and you can buy big sheets and cut them down into 4x6 or 3x5 and get more for your money that way. And you can also, on good paper, you can use the back side of the paper. So you're really getting a lot for your money, really, in the long run. I know it seems like expensive to spend $20 to $30 on a pad of paper or a block of paper or even a sketchbook, but it really is worth it. And you can, again, cut down those sizes and make them smaller. And use the back side. Sketchbooks, good sketchbooks, you can use the back sides of the pages too. And so again, and you can tape off different areas, sections in your sketchbook. I will often cut a page into 4 with tape and then just use that. Or you can just draw lines. You don't even need tape. Really is simple. Use what you have and make that work. Don't go spend a bunch of money, right? Don't go buy all the crazy things I have. You're welcome to, again, if you have the finances and you can and you want to, then absolutely. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. I love art supplies. Always have since I was a little kid. And not so much choir and acting, but art supplies was my thing. So all these arts, right? And I'm sure people that do act and sing, and they spend their money in ways that, that make them happy, right? And that's all what it's all about. Doing and spending and time and all our stuff, resources, doing what makes us happy, right? And so if those things bring you joy, there's just so many different art forms, and they're all amazing, and I love it. I love that we all have different things that we like to do too, right? And they often overlap. I do a lot of sewing and, handcrafting, basically anything with my hands. I love, puzzles. I love board games. I love embroidery and sewing and quilting and what else? Just all sorts of things like that. Stamping. I never got huge into stamping, but I do love mixing my stamping in with my watercolor. I like to do that during the holidays. It's a lot of fun. And if you're into something like that, that's something to look forward to for the holidays. I like to make little cards that way. All right, I'm just going to add some little bit more greenish, very light green back here. Suggest trees in the way background where our glow is coming from. Because there's not nothing back by our glow, but it is kind of looking like there's nothing back there. And I'll just add some more, a little more. My paper's still wet, so I'm just sort of, is it wet? Let me check. Yeah, it's a little bit wet, not super duper. But again, we're just kind of playing and adding contrast here and there by dropping in just bits of color, not making particular shapes, just blobs and bits. You could even splatter, and that would do that. So what I would do if I were splattering, I would take my color, mix some of it over here. I would cover up the area I do not want the paint, right? Because it will go in that sky. I see some people splatter and they miss everything. Oh, thanks, Carly. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. And so I'm just going to splatter off to the sides. I'm going to try not to hit my middle area. And if I do, that's okay too. Sometimes splatter will lead you down a road that you're like, oh, okay, let me add some more color over there, right? Sometimes it won't do much of a difference and you'll be like, oh, okay, maybe it did a little bit. Like, great, I kind of like this little contrast that popped in the light, right? Without the light, you don't see the dark. Without the dark, there's no light. So having those darker spots hit that is good too. So now that inspired me to maybe mix a little bit of Van Dyke brown, or this could be a sepia, I'm not sure, a dark brown, in with my burnt sienna-ish color, get that pretty watered down, cover my area again, and then I'll splash a little bit of a darker color in there. You don't want to go overboard. Less is more, right? And you can always add more. Taking away, you can take away, it's just a little bit harder. So go slower, and see, I did splatter up into my white area. And they don't necessarily want that, so if I do that, what I can do, first off, I can try to find a clean spot in my rag and maybe just pick it up. And most likely it won't bother me that much, but I did pick it up. Or you can use your brush, but I like to pick it up with a cloth first. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep it simple today. I don't wanna overwhelm anybody. I'm not gonna add any trees because I know people struggle adding trees sometimes. It took me a really long time to get trees down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dry again with my heat tool. Best $12 I've ever spent. If you don't like to wait for your paper to dry and you wanna move on and you just wanna keep painting, spend the $12 and buy this thing. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, now that that's dry, we can stop here. Or what we can also do is take our rigger or liner, script liner. We could take a little bit more dark color and we could just add a few more little grass wisps in the front here. Just sort of, you know, add more dark in the light. And you might think, whoa, that's too dark, not a big fan. But maybe that's the point. Maybe these fine lines draw you forward so that all these blurry things are pushed to the back, you know, because they are blurry, right? They're out of focus. There's not much crispness in this. Crispness. I don't even know if I'm making up these words or not. I might be. There's not a lot of crisp in this crispiness. There's not a lot of focus in this piece. So anyway, let's just add a few bits of grass, and you know, you don't have to go super overboard. You can add a little bit of darker spots in some spots if you want to by using the side of your brush, a little bit of dry brushing if you want to. You don't have to, but I do like to add bits of dark down here so that when I add my shimmer, because I do add shimmer to every piece, shimmer and birds, or you'll know when I'm done with a piece when I start adding the shimmer and the birds. That's when I'm wrapping it up. So what I'm doing right now, just still adding a little bit more so we have some contrast for that shimmer to pop against. And that's what really makes me happy, seeing that. So we're just gonna, again, dry brush. I'm putting my brush on its side, so instead of holding it up and down, it's more horizontal, more of a I wouldn't say 45-degree angle, but it's pretty close to it. Holding it flatter just so we get a little bit of those darker bits in there, right? Just take away the little bit of the light on those edges. I do like to kind of frame my stuff in, so I will often darken up these corners as well. All right, but anyway, I just want you to keep it simple. Keep it simple. Grab my shimmers, and I may have a few shimmers, but you really only need a few if you just want something like gold, just to add a little bit to it. I'm going to use a size 4 round brush, and this is what a size 4 round brush looks like. It's just a smaller brush, just so that my splatter stays small. And I take a pretty good chunk of water, not chunk, a bit of water. So 1, 2, 3. You don't really want to do this over your painting like I'm doing. Better to do it separately. Then what I want to do is I want to cover up all my workspace. Anything you don't want splatter on, including your existing palettes with your paint, including your ceramic palettes, including your shimmer palette that you just brought out. Anything you don't want splatter on, cover it. This stuff flies. I'll often find it on my glasses, on my face, on the wall, all sorts of places. So what I do is I take my brush, and I did load it up with a shimmer. I don't want a lot of water, so what I also do is I roll my brush along my cloth, and then I gently tap my brush with my finger, gently, just to see what's happening first. Then I will tap it with all 4 of them if it's small enough. I don't want giant drops of paint. Those are a little big for me, but that's okay. I'm going to repeat the process, grab more paint, go slowly at first to see what size splatters I'm getting, and then when they're small enough for me, I hit harder, right? And I usually only do 2 or 3 max of that. You don't want to overdo it. So the shimmer I used is really cool. It turns gold in some parts and pink in others at different angles. It's really cool. It's called a duo shimmer. And so what they do is they literally change colors when you look at it from different angles. Some of those can do 3 different colors. This one's, I think, just a pink and gold. All right, then we collect all our cover-ups. And I didn't use these covers for a long time, and so all my stuff had white specks and gold specks and all sorts of specks all over it. All right, last thing we're going to add is we're going to add some birds, because I add birds to everything. Now you can see this did turn a little bit green here when I re-wet that second time, and my green kind of shifted, my yellow shifted up into the blue. Am I bothered by that? No, some people would, so you'd want to take more care for that. And I don't really mind. It almost looks like there's just maybe more trees in the background, right? There's more depth. And so all these little happy accidents, as I like, as lots of us like to call them, in a tribute to, of course, the person who coined that term. But anyway, happy accidents are kind of a watercolor thing, and I think they always will be. And I don't think they'll ever stop. So what I'm going to do is make sure my paper is super dry, which I know it is because we did not re-wet again, and I dried. So I'm going to take this is a ultra round size 2. So what an ultra round typically is, it's typically longer in the, hold still. This is a size 2, so it's smaller, but it's typically an ultra versus regular round. It's typically longer, but it's also my phone doesn't want to focus. It's typically has a sharper tip versus more roundness and girth to the brush. But again, these are not the same sizes to compare, so it's not a great comparison. But ultra rounds I find, typically have a better tip on them with more attention to detail in my experience. Not that my experience is great. I don't love round brushes. I usually like mops. Let me not talk while I do this so I get my lines very, very thin. These right now are just a hint, right? You don't want to go and put a big old thick bird on there, right? You just kind of want to touch your brush down. See, now I'm even afraid if I go back and mess with that wing, I'm going to mess it up. So I'm not going to. I'm going to dip again and get my second bird going at a slightly different angle. Again, lightly touch, and then there we go. That's it for birds. I only do 2 usually. That is kind of my signature thing. I don't know, 2 just works for me. Any more than that, my formation kind of looks unnatural. So I like 2. You know what? When something works for you, you just go for it, right? Especially when you struggle as long as I did with something silly and simple as birds. Like getting my birds right. It took so long. And so when I finally get it right, I'm just like, nope, I'm sticking with 2. That's going to be my thing. It works for me. That's it. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay. You make your own rules. Do what you like. Do what makes you happy. Don't do what other people do just because they do it. Do it. If it works for you, do it. All right. I do like to clean off my plexi every time, so you'll see me often doing this. I actually often edit it out, and I don't show you, but I do like to clean as I go. I'm the same way in the kitchen, and I'm trying to teach my kids that. They don't necessarily subscribe to that same theory as much as I drill it in. Yeah. But they do cook every single meal for us now, so you know what? You kind of take what you can get. Oh, and look at that. Hi, Kathy. Oh, you just landed. It is just 3 o'clock, 30 minutes. I just made it under 30. Was just playing with some loose color. It was impromptu again. I'm just not in the swing of things, so I didn't announce it in our group today. I should though. I should just make it a permanent thing. Wednesdays at, oh, that's the thing. I never know what time is going to be permanent. Wednesdays afternoon-ish. But yeah, that's it. So thanks everybody for joining, and I will see you sooner than later. All right, bye.